My name is Carol Iris Sandler. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, and my parents were born in Baltimore, Maryland too. Unfortunately, at the age of 2, my birth father died, and at the age of 5, my mother remarried a man by the name of Ezra Shapiro, and he adopted me and gave him his name. So I grew up with the name of Carol Sandler Shapiro. I went to Garrison Middle School, and from there I went to Forest Park High School, whereupon I graduated. I do have a stepsister who came from my father's first marriage after his divorce, and her name is Ruth. She now lives in right near Annapolis. Ruth and I saw each other every summer when she came up to visit us, and my mother used to take us shopping and dressed us like twins, even though there was a 9-year age difference. Growing up in my life, I had 2 marvelous grandparents. My grandfather's name was Simon and my grandmother's name was Rebecca. They were kosher. My grandmother was a great cook and my grandfather was a poor tailor. They belonged to a synagogue called Petah Tikva, which was Orthodox. The women sat upstairs and the men sat downstairs. And I had very, very light blonde hair, sort of like it is now, but really blonde, natural. And they used to call me the little shiksa when I went to services with them. On Friday nights, going back to my grandparents, when I would get there on Friday, they'd give me a quarter. Then up the street was an Italian grocery store, and I used to buy candy and ice cream. Down the street and around the corner was a couple that owned a kosher grocery store, and I could go there and buy. For a quarter, you could get a lot of things in those days, and that was my big treat. And I just have to say that they were the sweetest people in the world. I was raised at Har Sinai, which is totally reformed. I went to Sunday school there for about 2 years. Never was bat mitzvahed, never was confirmed. I really hated it, but because I didn't like the teacher or something, and I was in a class with a couple people that I knew and they didn't like it either, so we used to play tic-tac-toe and hangman. I remember an incident in my childhood, and I didn't realize it in those days, but it was an anti-Semitic thing that happened to me. My very best friend, who lived across the street, was Catholic, and she had a birthday party at Northwest, which is a swimming pool in Mount Washington, and she had a birthday party there, and I was not invited, and I got very upset. So there was a big sign at Northwest that said, "No Jews, no niggers, and no dogs." And my mother must have called her mother to find out, because I was crying that I wasn't invited, and her mother said because they don't let Jewish people in there. And I had been in their home numerous times, and we played together, and this gal, and I can't remember her name, she was in my home, and I really never knew about anti-Semitism. I didn't even know what it meant, and then years later I realized it was anti-Semitic. Yet we couldn't afford to send me to day camp, so up the street, up the alley from me, was an Episcopal church, And my parents sent me to Vacation Bible School there. And we colored pictures and we played all together, and I never felt anything badly about it. You know, it just seemed like the natural thing to do, because in my neighborhood we were the only Jews on the block. We broke the block. We were the first Jewish people there. And then subsequently other Jewish people moved in. After graduating from college, I met a man and we got married. And we got married in Beth Jacob, which is an Orthodox congregation no longer existing on Park Heights Avenue. And his parents were Orthodox, and we used to have Shabbat dinner with them every Friday night. And as the children came along, my son and my daughter, we realized that they needed a Jewish education, so we became involved with Hezek Emunah and been there ever since. And they both were bar and bat mitzvah there. And I've had a very wonderful, close relationship with my synagogue. And I enjoy going to the services when I can. And we celebrate all of the holidays. My daughter always has Shabbat dinner, and she lights the candles and says all the prayers. My daughter-in-law was not Jewish when she married my son, but she converted. I really prize my Jewish faith. I think the Jewish people have good morals and raise their children with good codes, and they know how to be with other people, and they know how to mix with Jews and non-Jews. And when my son was bar mitzvahed, we went to Israel, and that was our first taste of it. As many times as I've traveled to Israel, either with the synagogue or with my family, I have always fallen in love with it each time. And I feel that it is my homeland, and I am really proud to be a Jew. And I ever feel Jewish in my heart.